The Sony Xperia 5 II, a slim, tall, modest-looking device that promises a lot, especially to enthusiasts.
But promises are one thing, and to live up to them, quite another.
Here's a real conversation. Goedendag, we're DHRME, Duo Human Reviewing Music Equipments.
I'm not a fan of big phones, and the Sony's 21:9 form factor has long caught my eye for its perfect compromise between one-handed use and increased screen real estate. And the Sony Xperia 5 II snuggles just right into my right hand. The display itself is fine, and I don't mind that it's not 4K. Colors are rich and vivid. The refresh rate of 120Hz is great on paper, but I'll be honest, I don't care about it. I'm not a gamer, and I mainly read on my phone, which means the image is static most of the time. Even for video, the frame rate is way below that 120Hz. Coming back to the build, the narrowness makes one-handed use very handy.
Because of the tall shape, it's also perfectly suited to multi-window use. The downside, while casting to a 16:9 aspect ratio TV, is that there's considerable letterboxing. And while we're on display, the creator mode works well for those creating content. For example, to test a video you've just made so that the colors are not too saturated. A bummer was that we found that the auto brightness didn't work well enough. While in medium lighting, it's fine, but in extreme situations like in a dark room, it was quite often a few notches above minimum brightness. And then sometimes it quite randomly became too dim. Not too thrilled about that.
On the right side of the device, you get not one, not two, but 3 different buttons and a volume rocker, so essentially 5 pressable things. I find this to be regularly annoying in day-to-day use. Let's get the good out of the way. It's easy to find the most used one, that is the fingerprint reader and the power button, because it's recessed. That fingerprint reader, by the way, works great. The volume rocker above that is also easy to find. But then you have a camera shutter button and a Google Assistant button, and that means you can't really put a clamp on this thing because the right side is essentially covered with buttons. And this Google Assistant thing, there's a zillion ways to bring it up. There's voice, swipe, hardware button. I know OEMs get paid by Google to do this, but do they get paid per way of initiating the assistant as well? You'd think so.
On the top, you have a good old audio jack, which we all love. More on audio later. And on the underside, you have a USB Type-C. My biggest pet peeve here is the lack of wireless charging. I'm not sure how they skipped this, because here in the Netherlands, we're in the middle of an extended lockdown, and I'm basically at home all the time with wireless chargers all over the place.
Coming to the software experience. Now, let's start with audio. This phone comes with DSEE Ultimate built in, which means your lower quality audio files are intelligently upscaled to sound better. This is what the Sony WH-1000 XM4 headphones comes with on the headphones, but this feature on the phone means you can essentially use this with any headphones connected to it. There's also Dolby Atmos, which creates an immersive surround experience, kind of like what Sony's 360 audio also tries to do.
There's also an intelligent wind filter, which helps you record using your mic in windy conditions. Sony's audio chops really show. It also, of course, like most Android phones these days, has LDAC support, so you're covered for your high-quality wireless audio fix, provided your headphones support that.
They've also tried something funny on the speakers with this phone. The speakers sound quite good, but I'm not really feeling the whole dynamic vibration on the chassis thing. So what this does is, based on the sound, your phone also vibrates. So if there's a bass sound, your phone vibrates a little bit in your hand. To me, it's at best a minor addition, or at worst, a mild irritation.
It runs Android 10, but noticeably only has the 1st December 2020 security patch as of making this video. And speaking of Android, Rohan, you moved over from an iPhone to this, right? So how's that been?
Some things really stand out, Kevin. It isn't as stable as iOS. I experience regular crashes in certain apps, especially Reddit, although there are some workarounds which I've now figured out. Also, the Jabra app I use for the Elite 85Ts keeps trying to connect for some reason. Other than that, I think Android does pretty well. Alright, you guys are probably here for the camera, so let me start with the front camera. It's pretty low resolution, and the first impression of the camera is not too good. But don't go by first impressions. Unlike the iPhone, what you see on the screen in the live preview is very different from the finished photograph. But it's not a great camera in low light, if I'm being honest, even if it has a wider field of view compared to an iPhone. and there's a greenish tinge in certain low light situations.
The rear camera is also very disappointing in auto mode. Even with decent light, we often got blurry shots. It's like Sony brought over the deficiencies of a real camera to the mobile camera experience by trying to use a lower shutter speed. We don't hate the camera, but we did expect more. We tried HDR and video, but gave up pretty quickly due to compatibility issues with Final Cut Pro.
About the Pro camera apps, yeah. So these will give you better results than the auto mode or the stock camera, but I'm not sure they really achieve what they promise. I mean, sure, you see eye tracking when you turn on eye autofocus, for example, but whether that contributes to better, sharper, faster photos, I don't know. And I think instead of trying to appeal to enthusiasts who talk about shutter speed and white balance, Sony should have done more with their default camera. I mean, how can you sell a flagship camera in 2021 without a night mode option? A cell phone for most of us is a point and shoot, and if you figure that out first, it makes sense to give folks more choice instead of the other way around. Anyway, we can't get into all the camera details in this video, but do leave a comment down below if you want to hear more about the camera system in this phone. And please don't leave us comments below for being Sony haters.
Didn't we get roasted before for being Sony fanboys?
I know, Kevin, so near, yet so far.
The battery life on the phone is quite awesome. We got up to 5 hours 50 minutes of screen on time, which is quite frankly excellent for the slim profile. However, we were also mainly at home during the pandemic, so that affects the real life in the real life testing.
So given everything about this phone, yeah, it's a good phone. It came with free headphones to soften the blow when it launched, the XB extra bass wireless headphones. But I would have wholeheartedly recommended this phone had the stock camera performance been good. For marketing this as an enthusiast phone, the camera is not terrible, but also doesn't really live up to its promise. If a great point and shoot experience is your top priority, don't buy the Sony Xperia 5 II.
But for the one-handed ease of use, great audio experience, stellar battery life, and if you want a million ways to call up the Google Assistant, there's no better phone out there.
You've not been roasting us in the comments.
And we've been DHRME.
Namaste.